I mean, honestly, that kind of contradicts everything I'd expect from the gay community, as I feel Donald Trump is just homophobic in general.
This is a gay Trump supporter. David, this is Michael.
Nice to meet you.
How's it going?
He's a part of that growing support for Donald Trump, but could you dig into that for us?
Well, I wouldn't say necessarily homophobic.
No, they're not facts at all.
They are facts.
They're things that you believe because you read them in some bizarre right-wing newspaper.
What's going on, everyone? James Klug here. Today I'm in Washington, D.C., and I'm going to be talking to people about Trump's growing support in the gay community. And for those that disagree, I'm going to bring them face to face with my good friend, David Leatherwood, or as some of you may know him as, RealBrokeBackPatriot. Now, you guys, before we get started, this video is brought to you by Surfshark VPN. That's the VPN that I personally use. Check out surfshark.deal/James Klug for 83% off plus 3 months for free. Let's go talk to some people. We're talking to you about something interesting today, and that is the growing popularity of supporting Trump in the gay community. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, it's puzzlement, actually, because he's so anti-gay that I don't understand what a person that's gay would stand to gain from him being president. But I think they would stand to lose quite a bit.
Why do you think that the gay community in this country is, has growing support for Donald Trump?
I mean, honestly, that kind of contradicts everything I'd expect from the gay community, as I feel Donald Trump is just homophobic in general.
What are your thoughts? Do you think it's warranted? Do you think it's okay? Do you think it's silly? What are your thoughts?
I mean, so personally, I don't think that Trump's selections of judges are particularly friendly to like gay marriage. I suppose the people who do want to vote for Trump probably just prioritize other policies of his more than, like the right to gay marriage or something like that, or the selection of judges. That would be my guess.
Do you think the right to gay marriage is like under threat under Donald Trump, or?
Yeah, I would think so, but not directly, because Trump himself doesn't have direct control of that. It's more about the Supreme Court appointees and lower court judges that he puts into positions that would not rule in favor of like gay discrimination cases or gay marriage.
So as far as the question of gay people, I don't know that it matters their sexual orientation. They probably sit there and look at the facts like I do. I'm a straight guy. I don't think it matters.
I think whoever anybody wants to support, they should support.
And as for you?
Me, I'm kind of curious to why there is a growing support for Trump, the gay community. What is he doing?
So I actually have here a gay Trump supporter. This is David. You believe Trump is anti-gay. Do you mind maybe explaining that a little bit for David, a gay Trump supporter?
Well, his message is that he wants to take any health rights that you have, that non-gay people have, away from you. He wants to take Medicare away from you. He wants to take away your right to get married, if you choose, to a same-sex partner. And I don't understand how those things don't mean anything to you.
In my opinion, Donald Trump's the most pro-gay president in American history. He's never ever tried to take gay people's health care away, so I don't know where that comes from.
He's trying to take away pre-existing conditions, which include being gay and having some type of disease like HIV or some other kind of infection like that will cause you to really need that health care.
Well, as a gay man, I think Obamacare is absolutely disastrous and we need to replace it anyway. Trump actually just protected pre-existing conditions for all Americans. He doesn't discriminate.
This is a gay Trump supporter. David, this is Michael.
Nice to meet you.
How's it going?
Michael was saying how he believes that Donald Trump kind of supports, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but kind of supports maybe homophobic actions. Could you maybe dig into that for David? David has he's a part of that growing support for Donald Trump, but could you dig into that for us?
Well, I wouldn't say necessarily homophobic, but I just don't really see him as focused on inclusivity, and I feel like especially in the gay community. I would like to hear about why you support him, though.
Did you know that Donald Trump was actually the first president in American history to enter office pro-gay?
I did not know.
Yeah, and he also the Trump administration is actually the first administration in American history to lead a global initiative to decriminalize homosexuality around the world. They don't talk about that on the media, but it's actually true.
So what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, I've never heard of that. before, but I mean, Trump being pro-gay, yes, I guess that is true.
I do have a gay Trump supporter right over here. This is David.
Nice to meet you.
How's it going?
You guys, so he was just telling me he thinks that maybe some Trump's Supreme Court picks could be threatening to gay marriage in this country, et cetera, et cetera. You also did bring up an interesting point about how maybe they're focused on other policies and stuff like that. But as for the gay marriage, kind of threat, to what extent do you think that's doable? What are your thoughts?
My thoughts would just be that it would come down to a Supreme Court decision where if they were looking at gay marriage, it would be whether they're respecting the precedent from previous rulings or if they're ruling differently. And from my understanding, Trump leans more towards conservative judges that aren't particularly friendly towards that cause. But I don't know whether they would respect precedent or not.
First of all, I want to know if you were aware that Trump's actually appointed, just to the courts all across the country, several openly gay people, including Patrick Bumate. Were you aware of that?
No, I was not.
Yeah, so as a gay man, I really like Donald Trump. I voted for Obama twice. And then in the election, Donald Trump actually came out during his campaign. He held the gay flag, which was like his first step. And we were like, oh my God, this is great. Yeah, and then when he accepted the nomination at the RNC, he actually stood on stage in his acceptance speech, the first Republican in American history to pledge his support to the LGBT community on stage in his acceptance speech. And you know what? The entire auditorium stood up and applauded him. And it's the first time Republicans have ever done that.
Another thought I have on that is just because you're in a different, whether it be gay or lesbian or any minority, it doesn't mean you automatically have to be on the Democrat side just automatically. I think we're starting to see that this election cycle. You get things like when Joe Biden says you ain't black if you don't vote for me. That's ridiculous.
I don't know of anybody except you that's supporting that's gay. This town is full of gay people.
Right, well, as a gay man, it's really hard for me to support a candidate like Joe Biden who has a atrocious voting record against LGBT Americans for over 4 decades. He voted for the most anti-gay legislation in American history, including Don't Ask, Don't Tell and Defensive Marriage Act, which was devastating to the LGBT community. Meanwhile, in the 90s, Donald Trump was employing openly gay people to run his company. He also went on record in several publications to support the gay community and gay marriage. In 2001, 12 years before Joe Biden ever did. I mean, do you think that Joe Biden's destructive voting record against LGBT Americans matters for LGBT people in their decision for who to vote?
No, I don't. Not at all, because that was a different era. Our climate in this country was entirely different at that time that he made those votes. There was not wide acceptance of people being gay.
So even when there wasn't wide acceptance, Donald Trump was doing it, but Joe Biden wasn't. So what's the excuse?
You can't say that he was hiring people that were gay. He didn't even know that they were gay.
Well, he wrote about it in his book. He has a whole chapter on it. I don't know if you read it.
I wouldn't read anything he wrote.
When the workplace discrimination case went to the Supreme Court this year, were you aware that it was Neil Gorsuch, Trump's appointee, that actually led the opinion to include sexual orientation and gender identity?
No, but that's awesome.
Yeah. So perhaps the judges that Trump is appointing aren't as anti-gay as people might think?
I hope so. I mean, my hope would be mostly that judges try not to lean one way or another in terms of politics at all, and they would just try and interpret what is constitutional. So hopefully Trump's appointees will do that.
What a crazy idea, right?
I know.
I mean, there's a lot of things that are kind of going on in the Trump administration. I think a lot of the, of gay Americans in this country have looked at that and been like, okay, I support decriminalizing homosexuality across the world. There are countries that put gay people to death. And they're working on absolutely changing that across the world.
So the Trump administration is leading a global initiative to decriminalize homosexuality. I mean, isn't that awesome? I was like, why didn't I actually, like I said, I was a Democrat. I voted for Democrats. Why didn't they do that?
Is there anything else that you would like to add to why maybe gay Americans shouldn't support Trump?
I mean, I'd like to see, did he switch because of Donald Trump? Were you generally a Democratic Party? Or?
Yeah, I actually voted for Obama twice. And when the election happened in 2016, I found out that Hillary Clinton was taking millions of dollars from countries like Saudi Arabia that still murder people for being gay. And I couldn't support her knowing that she was bought and paid for by countries that murder my gay brothers and sisters around the world. And then when I looked at Donald Trump, I noticed that since like the 90s, you know, he was employing gay people in his company. In 2001, he went on record for The Advocate, which is actually a gay publication, saying that he supported gay people and gay marriage. And Joe Biden and Hillary Clinton didn't do that till 2013. And I was like, wow, this man's actually very pro-gay. Yeah.
Interesting.
So how about Trump when he denies health care to Hispanics?
He doesn't do that.
Oh, please.
How does he do that?
The people that work for him didn't get any benefits.
The people that work for the Trump Association have gone on record and said it's one of the best companies to work for.
That's not what I've read about. That's not.
Who did you hear that from?
I said that's not what I've read about. Probably I read it in the New York Times because I tend to read factual newspapers. The Post and the Times, I read all the time.
So you don't think that the New York Times has a bias?
I think the New York Times has a bias toward truth.
Do you think anything Joe Biden could do that would gain back your support? Or?
Well, Joe Biden voted for the most anti-gay legislation in American history. In the 90s, he supported Don't Ask, Don't Tell and the Defense of Marriage Act, which were both incredibly damaging for the gay community. And to me, when he did come out in support in 2013, it didn't feel genuine. It felt politically motivated because it was out of convenience for the time. And it's just, to me, I kind of see through that as disingenuous.
Okay, understandable.
Yeah. You think that the New York Times is not biased when they say that Donald Trump is a homophobe when he's actually the first president in American history to enter office pro-gay, the first president in American history to openly appoint an openly gay man to his presidential cabinet when Democrats never did that?
Who did he appoint that was openly gay to his cabinet?
His name is Richard Grenell. He was a former ambassador to Germany, and now he was actually the director of national intelligence, the first openly gay man in American history to be appointed to a presidential cabinet, and Donald Trump did that, not Democrats.
Gay then.
Everybody knows Richard Grenell's gay. He's been out since the 90s, and he actually is.
I realize that, but that doesn't mean
I'm sure
Trump
Trump knew that.
The things that you're citing are such
They're
little
facts?
teeny tiny things. No, they're not facts at all.
They are facts.
They're things that you believe because you read them in some bizarre right-wing newspaper or some Breitbart or some place like that. And they're not facts, and they can all be disputed. I don't have at my hand right now the facts to dispute each one of those issues that you say.
So my question, Breitbart is biased, but the New York Times isn't.
Correct.
That was an interesting one that we got right there for the Supreme Court. That kind of changed your mind at all with any of that stuff?
I mean, I'm happy to hear that Gorsuch ruled that way. That's really cool. It'll definitely be good to know going forward in conversations with like friends and stuff. So I can't just say like, oh, you know, all appointees are bad or like super conservative.
I mean, thank you very much. Very informative. I didn't really get this perspective any time before. So
Donald Trump is actually providing free HIV preventative medication to uninsured gay people. He actually organized an arrangement with Pfizer, the creation of PrEP, to distribute HIV preventative medication to gay men that are uninsured. I think that's great to fight AIDS, especially when we know people that have died of AIDS.
Yeah, but on the other end of that, he would round them up and kill them, I'm sure, at some point.
Unlikely.